So I figured out if I just turn away from the sun, I won't have the sun problem. Okay, so anyway, I decided for this next little bit that chapters 14 and 16 go together a little bit better than me doing chapter 14 and 15. 15 will be by itself. So chapter 14 is called I Couldn't Have Done It Without You, and chapter 16 is called Feedback. You can kind of see why these two chapters go together. So, teamwork and collaboration has been scary for me, just because, again, going back to the sphere of rejection that I have, but also, like, I have certain standards, and if people don't meet my standards, then I do get really crabby, and I'm just like, why are you doing this? So I do need to work on my approach when I'm talking to people. That's something that I've always struggled with in school, because I would do work and then other people who wouldn't do work, and I'm like, guys, what is this? So, but in working here at Culver's, I've realized that, like, I really can't do it all. I can, okay, don't get me wrong, I can do drive-through, a 3-person position all by myself, but, like, the standards aren't there, the quality of the service isn't there, so it would be better for me to sit here and train people to what my standards are and give them the opportunity to grow and for them to do it. So, yeah, I couldn't have done it without you. The important thing for me to have realized with this whole teamwork thing is that we have to have corresponding goals, and we have to have a similar framework that we're working from, because if we don't, then there's just going to be too much miscommunication, and, like, we're not going to be on the same page. And you have to, although people can come to places with diverse backgrounds and diverse understandings, you guys have to be in line for the same goal, otherwise you're going to be working on, like, 2 different tracks and nothing's going to get accomplished. You guys are going to butt heads. I'm saying you guys, now I'm suddenly talking in the third person. It's fine. The 2 subsections of this chapter were advice and empathy. So, for me, for advice, in chapter 1, or chapter 2, one of the earlier chapters, we had this idea of the Superman or Superwoman who has to do everything all by themselves all the time. And that's what I used to think, like, a leader was about. Like, I have to know everything, I have to do everything by myself. And it took a good amount of humbling myself to realize, like, it's okay to ask for advice. You don't need to know everything all at once. And so now I ask everybody for advice at work. At school, I still don't ask people for advice. I need to transfer this understanding to school, my schoolwork. Just because, like, they've always told us, oh, like, lack of failure to plan on your part does not mean an emergency on my part. So I've always took that as, okay, so I'll just do this by myself and not ask for help, which is really difficult and a really bad concept to have when you're trying to do project proposals or research or literally anything. So school kind of, my interpretation of what school was saying kind of screwed me over there. But that's okay, because it's a learning curve, and we love learning curves. So with the other section, this idea of empathy, then, you want to be able to learn from other people's experiences. So for me, the mindset that I have is, how can I help others grow, and then how can I grow through their work? So the example that I just gave, because I decided to do these back to back, it's fine, these 4 chapters, but with my boy Steven. So Steven is the kid that I've been struggling with at work, didn't respect me, blah, blah, blah. We are working on a relationship. But it was an opportunity for me to learn through someone else's eyes. And I realized that in working with him, I have to work on how I'm perceived by other people, because sometimes I can be perceived as really aggressive and mean and just like a nasty person. And I'm like, oh, like, you're not wrong. I am, I'm mean. I am a mean person, generally speaking. But I'm also really nice. And I it's all coming from just a really starch commitment to goals. You know, this whole saying, harsh on goals, but kind on people. Whatever the correct saying is, I don't remember. But I did realize that I do need to be a bit more conscientious of how I am perceived by other people. So that was an opportunity for how I grew through working with Steven. How I've been able to help him grow, well, he's had, as I've told him many times, he had to get his head out of his butt. But in doing that, he has been able to ask like a lot more people questions. He's been able to be a lot more polite when asking adults questions, like my father figure, Luis. Whereas beforehand it would be like, oh, Luis, do this. Now it's like, oh, Luis, like, would you mind showing me this? And I'm like, this is top tier character development. Why? Because we had these conversations, one-on-one conversations. I'm going to use them in my classroom environment. So that's, I forgot what the questions are. List people who assist your growth. Whom do you want on that team? What roles will each play? What specific help do you need from each? Okay. So on my team, I'm getting more and more frustrated with myself as I age, as if I'm so old. But I don't like people who make excuses, and it's terrible because I make excuses all the time. But I also really don't like people that just waste time, that are inconsiderate of other people's time, and that aren't prepared, which haphazardly are all the things that I do. I've worked on it, so I'm not doing it as much. I do it like once out of every 10 times now, where I'm not like prepared, like I just completely drop the ball. But even then, like that's not good enough for me. And so I want people on my team who have that kind of same mentality. Like we want to improve, we're hungry for it, we're all these stereotypical sayings, but like they're true. Like I want people who are going to push and motivate each other. The list of people that I have right now on that team is Luis, my father figure, and all of my professors at work. So, all of my professors at school. So basically, my teachers, they need to understand who I am as a person right now, and that who I am is consistently changing as I continue to develop. So I just need people who will work with me through that, through their classes, through my academic career here at Benedictine, because I am changing. Like I've changed a lot, even though I don't feel like it, but I know that I've changed a lot since freshman year, and just being able to have the support that I need to have the structure in place, but also to have the empathy in place to realize that I do a lot of stuff outside of school, that I'm passionate behind a lot of things, and instead of having people tell me, oh, well, you're too passionate about too many things, I need people to say, look, I get that you're passionate. Here are resources. Go out and do something. So that's what my teachers provide. Luis provides me with a lot of feedback constantly, every single time I see them, and it's, hey, improve this, hey, do this, hey, blah. And I love it because he gives me structure, and he's constantly on my butt about things so that I'm always thinking about the next thing. I'm always thinking about how to improve. What specific help do you need from each? I kind of touched on that. I need structure, because I have all these great ideas, but I need to put them into something. And then I just need, like, consistency from people. I need to know that people are on my side. Not necessarily even on my side. I just need to know that we're all going in the same direction, that we're all going to be equally dedicated. Which leads us to chapter 16, feedback. Okay, feedback is so important, and I've gotten away from using it at work, and this chapter has inspired me to like type up something real quick, and like I work today at 4 o'clock, but I'm gonna type up something real quick and ask my kids for feedback, because it's been a while, and we're doing their 90-day and annual reviews for some of our team members right now, and I'm like, we haven't done any reviews of the managers. Like, no one knows what's going on. And your girl just got manager of the year. I'm so proud. So thankful. But, like, I don't have any more feedback than that. Other than, oh, well, you're doing a good job. And it was something that my kids instigated. Like, none of the managers were really into it or onto it. They didn't, like, create it. One of my coworkers created it. My team members, my downline. But I need more feedback. Like, I want to do better for my team. And in order to do that, I have to get feedback. The other two sections that this chapter talks about was this idea of being vulnerable and this idea of trust. Now, in getting feedback, the chapter says that you're vulnerable. I don't agree with that necessarily. Just because, like, as a leader, you're already vulnerable. Like, you're if you're really leading your team, you're putting 100% of yourself out there. So, like, if you've done a good job of it, then your team's already, like, you know, like, you guys are already meshed, okay? You're already vulnerable. They know who you are. You know who they are. So I'm going to... What am I saying? See, this is the anxiety thing I was talking about. I'm still working on it. I'm almost there. My scroll moments. This idea of being vulnerable as a leader, for me, means that you have to give 100% of yourself. So, in my idea, I don't think that it's necessarily being vulnerable so much as it is you're just leading. Like, you're out there. This is who you are. This is the position and the role that you play. I'm more concerned with this idea of trust, building trust. That's why with everything that I do, I always say, okay, well, we're a family first and foremost, right? So that already sets the idea, the foundation of trust, because my kids at work can come to me with home life issues, with boyfriend issues, with work issues and everything, and I'm just sitting here like, you know, people can take the attitude, oh my God, girl, why are you talking to me about this? But instead, you know, I really encourage my kids to look at the situation and be like, well, is there something we're supposed to learn from this? Is there something else underlying? Or do you just need to vent, you know? And we start that trust and that community building, that classroom management for my Education 205 class that I'm taking right now. But you have to start it with that. You cannot be an effective leader without first building that foundation in trust. For me, it has manifested in being a family. So, Ohana means family. Family means no one ever gets left behind. One important thing that I did realize from this chapter is that I do need to document the kind of assessments that I'm taking. So that's why I said I should type something out and give it to my kids, and then I'm going to keep like a track record of it so I can see how I'm changing or how my leadership style is developing and what the impact on my kids is. Just because, like, the feedback, I get a lot of direct feedback, right? And I give a lot of direct feedback, but it doesn't do anything if A, I don't remember it, and B, I have no way of measuring it. So that is something important that I'm taking from this chapter. I realized that oh no, okay, yeah, I forgot about the question. Okay, so the question for this chapter is, ask others for feedback. Oh. I should have read that beforehand, and I didn't. Sorry. Well, you kind of saw the feedback already in chapter 9, so I apologize in advance. I might do, like, another follow-up video, or I'm thinking I'm going to also add in here, the notes that I get from my kids, because I'm going to type it out and have them physically write it, so I'll probably send that in. Let me make a note of that. Physically send in. Take a photo. I'll only send in a couple. But this is definitely something that I need to include more of. And the reason why feedback is important, not only from your top line, but also from your downline, is that your downline feels like they are being heard, that their values are important, that what they have to say matters. And then your upline is able to give you a kind of guiding framework to work from. Like, hey, this is where you're doing good, this is where you're doing bad, this is where we're going as a company or as an organization or whatever. This is where we need you to grow, which is really good. And then you have kind of like the re-solidification of what your upline is saying by your downline's feedback being like, hey, this is how you make me feel, this is how I am motivated, this is how I feel on shifts where I have to work with you, like all these different things. So the feedback needs to go both ways is the most important part.